All right. All right, everyone. Welcome to Real Sales Talk. This is the show for salespeople by real salespeople that sit in the seat, that close deals down, and pass along their success stories and our friends' success stories to you to help you make more money. This is season 2, episode 2, and we've got a very, very cool guest on the show, Adam Honig.
Hey, Sean.
What? Oops, hold on just a second here.
Did I drop off here somewhere?
Yeah, I'm getting like double the audio here. Apologize.
Probably logged in
You definitely
twice.
don't want to hear me twice because it's bad enough hearing me once. So
Okay, how's that?
I'm hearing a little bit of an echo still, but definitely manageable.
Cool. Well, I think we may be good to go. If it gets a little too distracting, definitely let us know. Adam, thank you so much for being on the show. Let me just do a quick introduction of who you are. You are CEO of a really cool software as a service called Spiro, and I can't wait because I've been a user of this software for a long time, and I'm really interested in this topic that we have tonight, which is how artificial intelligence is solving our sales follow-up problems. So Adam, thank you so much for being on the show, and welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Really excited to be here. Great to talk with you guys. I love your opening about how this show is all about salespeople making more money, because that's been our motto since like the day we opened up our shop. Because that's what it comes down to, right? I mean, we can talk about we have to serve the customers, we have to do the right thing, but we're in sales, so what the hell?
I think it's totally right on, man, because if you're in sales, you're most likely in sales because you like to make money and you like to win. So it makes sense, right?
Totally. I mean, I know some salespeople who don't like to make money, but I don't think they lasted very long in sales.
I don't think so either. Henry, what do we got going on the social side tonight?
Yeah, so just wanted to let everybody know, as always, Twitter is a great place to really communicate with us. We're going to be doing something a little bit different tonight in that if you have any questions, just go #RealSalesTalk, put it in on Twitter, and then Sean or I will find it there, make sure it gets asked to Adam as we go. Also, moving forward, make sure to follow Sean, myself, and Adam on Twitter. And elsewhere, I am at Talk to Henry J. Sean is at Sean and Mitchell, and then we have Adam is at Adam Honig, and it's just how it sounds, Adam Honig. So, yeah, social is a great place to communicate with us, and look forward to having some fun on there.
We have in the past tried the Google Hangouts where Google Hangouts has the questions, but it's a little bit covered up and hard to find. So we're going to give the Twitter hashtag a try to see if that opens it up a little bit and allows us to encourages more people to ask questions for Adam as well as the two of us as well. So Henry, what are we going to be covering tonight with Adam?
Yeah, so tonight's all about, like as you mentioned, right, how artificial intelligence is helping to solve the sales problem, right? I mean, as a salesperson in the day-to-day, probably every single salesperson thinks, man, I wish I had a personal assistant. I wish I had somebody to remind me to do this, or this. And I've been using Spiro for a while. A bunch of the people at my job use it, and pretty much that's how I got into it. They just were like, look, you need to check this out. Their email copy is amazing, and it's literally just a push of a button to get it going. So I started checking it out, and all my friends use it. So we're going to talk about Spiro, how it's using that automation to help salespeople, and getting a better idea from Adam, how it all began. So I guess we can start there. And Adam, if you wouldn't mind, kind of just giving us a little background, right? We
Sure.
know what Spiro is, how the idea came about, and how you guys are going forward.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to tell you about that. So just so you know that the inspiration came to me in the movies, and let me step back for a minute. So my last company was a company called Innovere Solutions, which I sold in 2012. and we were one of the largest Salesforce.com implementation partners. So we implemented Salesforce for companies like Staples and New York Life and really, really big companies, thousands of sales guys, and we sold the company to an even bigger Salesforce consulting company, which got bought by Accenture, and so we were doing all these crazy Salesforce projects. And if you had to do a graph of like how much money companies spent and then how much salespeople hated what we were doing, this was like top right-hand corner. Like everybody hated it, and all day long it was like, how do you get salespeople to use Salesforce? And so Covidian paid us $500,000 to try to figure out how to get their sales guys to use Salesforce. So that was just sort of in the background. So I went to go see this movie called Her after I sold the company. And so Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with a new operating system on his phone that's played by Scarlett Johansson. And the movie gets really weird. He like has sex with her and all that. Well, like whatever. Like about halfway through the movie, I'm like, wait, what salespeople need? They don't need Salesforce. They need Scarlett Johansson, right? I mean, that's what we all need. And so I called up Andy, my partner, who we started the business with, and I'm like, I know what we're doing. We're going to build Scarlett Johansson for Salesforce, and that's kind of how we got the thing going, And that the inspiration is really from the movies of the slight future. So I'm still waiting for Scarlett Johansson to call me back, by the way. She was like having a baby when we first got started. I called her up. I left her like 20 voicemail messages, and I think I've got the right number, but I'm not sure. So if you're watching, call me back.
The movie sounds super weird, but I mean, if you're gonna fall in love with anybody, right? Like Scarlett Johansson's not a bad person.
So her body, her phisical presence doesn't even show up in the movie. Just her voice is enough to make Joaquin Phoenix fall in love with her. So
he's a great person to play.
I want to see it as well. I think it'd be really interesting. I'm really curious to know, Adam, and we usually ask this at the very beginning of our Q&A when we have guests on, but what's your background in sales? When did you first get into it, and how did you know it was something that you had a future in?
Sure. So I graduated college with a degree in philosophy, which comes in very handy in the business world. And so I joined a consulting company that for some reason decided to hire me. And I was a terrible consultant, like just the worst. But it turned out that I could actually talk. So they were like, oh, okay, you can go do sales. And I was like, all right, I don't know what that is, but no problem. And so, I started off working the phones, making like 60, 80 calls a day, developing clients and stuff like that, and it seemed to work fine for me. I was getting it done. And then a group of guys from that company decided to start a software company, and I joined up with them, and so I got to be the sales guy at this middleware software company that we started, which we wound up growing to about $30 million in revenue, took it public, and I was like the sales leader all of a sudden, and it was all kind of trial by fire, it was like, oh, okay, well, we need to do more sales than what you can do, so you better hire some sales guys and women, and we, so it was just my sales background has really been like trial by fire, learn by doing. I wish I had some, formal training in it, but it's just been, that's the way it went.
I think that's a really beautiful thing about sales, and I hear this a lot from other people, and myself included, that many great salespeople fall into it by accident. Like I don't hear a lot of people thinking, gosh, when they're like 10 years old, 5 years old, gosh, I want to be a salesperson, unless they've had someone model that for them, like a father or a mother. But most people just
sort
kind
of
of
a pet peeve of mine. It's like if you look at all the movies, and we blog about sales movies and stuff like that, salespeople look like bad scumbags. I mean, it's terrible. Like the best sales movies are like Tommy Boy. Like, come on, Glengarry Glen Ross. Like, what? How are we? Like, there's 12 million salespeople in the United States alone. Why do we all look like idiots? Why can't it be like a really great sales guy who rescues the baby at the fire or whatever? But it's never like that, So so it's interesting. Nobody ever wants to be a salesman. It's fun. We do have an intern this summer, so we've got an intern at Spiro this summer who's from Boston College, and he's like, "I want to be a sales guy," and we were like, awesome. You can join us. That's perfect, Like, so naturally, we have him calling up all of our prospects. That's what we stuck him with during the summer. But that's
Yeah, talk about trial by fire there.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I'll say you'll see how he feels about it afterward. That's the hardest gig in sales right there, the cold calling, man.
Oh, I know, I know. Well, it's a little bit easier for us because he's calling up guys who've downloaded the app. So,
Yeah,
one
that's
day
true.
you're going to get a call from him, Henry. So be nice. But
All
of
right.
course, we're calling salespeople, and so like I've done a lot of calling and just cold outreach to salespeople myself with Spiro, and salespeople are pretty cool if you call them up and you're like, hey, I'm just trying to like, and they're like, yeah, I know what the deal is,
Yeah.
before they tell you
They
to piss
get it.
off. They're nice, so.
They get it. And
I sometimes give him the boiler room. We got to work on your pitch, man.
Oh man, so
But,
there's this one guy who emails me, right? And I have to say it was like one of these terrible cold emails that you get, right? And I'm like, okay, dude, let me break it down for you. What I hate about this email. And very nice. I sent it back to him. He's like, oh my God, I'm a Spiro user. Thank you so much for critiquing my email. I'm like, oh, I'm glad I didn't tell you to stick it in your ear, buddy.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
so, at what point did you start to see that sales follow-up was a challenge? Because that's really, I mean, I think that's really what Spiro comes down to, and has at least helped me be successful, is the follow-up, not letting deals fall through the cracks. Because if you're doing well, you're juggling a lot of opportunities. So, at what
Right.
point did you realize that this was a problem that needed to be fixed?
Well, right from the get-go. So doing all of these Salesforce projects, I know how many opportunities people are managing. Honestly, I'm in sales, so I can say this, but salespeople, we're successful because we get really focused on, like, I'm focused on Sean. Like, I really want to connect with you, and like everything else is out of my head, right? And so, like, now, okay, I'm done with Sean. What do I do now? Like, I don't know, and that's where salespeople fall down because we don't think about that next thing, right? And so to have like an automated way of, helping you with that stuff was sort of the core of what we wanted to do. Because if you're trying to follow up with more than like 3 prospects, no way, like you need to have some system, whether it's you're writing it down or it's on your calendar or something. And we just were like, we need a better way of dealing with that.
Mhm. So how'd you guys approach that? Was it do you guys have like a set time for each deal that, all right, after 3 days, after a week, we want to make sure we're following up with this person. After 2 weeks, we make sure we're following up with this person. Is there a mathematical equation that you guys use to kind of figure it out, or how are you guys figuring when's the best time to follow up?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So after I was a sales rep, I let you know that I was a sales manager. I was a sales manager for many, many, many years. And, so typical sales manager, you sit down with the sales people every once a week and you kind of go through everything. And we'd always have the same question, Henry. It'd be like, did you call Staples this week? No, I didn't call Staples. I was really busy with everything else. And be like, well, and so like all of this experience of being a sales rep and a sales manager kind of came together. And so what we did is to start is we built sort of the model of what we thought the cadence should be in general. Like how frequently should you be following up with a prospect? You've got a close date. You've got a start of the opportunity. Like as you work things through the funnel, how should it be working? And then we layered on top of that the machine learning technology, which says, okay, based upon all of the data that's going on and all of the different deals and everything that's going on, what does that look like? And then we combine the interaction history. And what I mean by that is, like, we might have a model that says you should call Sean next Tuesday. That might be the way the model spits out. But then you get an email from Sean that indicates that something's going on. So, no, you shouldn't wait until next Tuesday. You should wait till today. So there's a real-time engine running on top of the initial algorithm that we built, fueled by the machine learning behind it. And, it's one of those things where it just keeps evolving based upon the amount of data that we've got in the system.
So I want to back up a little bit because I don't want to make the assumption, assumptions are bad in many cases, especially in sales, but I don't want to make the assumption that everyone who's watching this or listening to this knows what artificial intelligence is. So Adam, can you just kind of give like a layman's term of what it is and how you're utilizing it at Spiro?
Sure. I mean, a lot of people think about, the Terminator when they think about artificial intelligence, and that's exactly right. No, I'm just kidding. So basically, the artificial intelligence and machine learning in the context that I'm using them, it's a new technology that's kind of evolved Well, it's a technology that's been around for a while, but it's really started to really happen in the past couple of years. But at its core, it's a way for the software program to learn by itself from the data. So, if Henry is always making calls at 4:30 in the afternoon, he's getting people on the phone, the algorithm says, 4:30 in the afternoon, that's when we're going to bother Henry to start calling people. And then it's going to look to see if other people are doing that, to see if it's a more general trend. So that's part of what the secret sauce in Spiro is, and the more data and the more salespeople we have using it, the theory is the smarter that it gets until it takes over the world and saves humanity from the robots of the future.
Yes. Where do you see that going?
I'm sorry.
Where does artificial intelligence go at Spiro? Let's say 5 years from now. What does that look like for Spiro?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of really cool things that are going on. So what I'm really interested in is wearables, for example. So there's not a lot of sales guys who wear Apple Watches, right? But imagine if you were wearing it and it knew your heart rate and it knew what was going on for you. Maybe it could tell you to calm down. Because you ever get in that sales call that you're like, like doing that kind of thing, and like you can't get out of it, and you're like imagine if your sales assistant was able to be like, oh, hold on, let's calm down, tells you a joke, or like. So there's sort of a biometric feedback element to sales that I'd really love to incorporate in this. I mean, think about the athletics. All the athletes are doing this kind of stuff, right, to improve their performance. So maybe that kind of stuff could help us sell more deals. There's also geographic location, like, for example, I keep talking about Staples, so they were one of my clients in the past, but let's say I show up at the Staples headquarters, and the app is like, oh, I see you're at Staples. Are you working a deal there? Instead of like having to type in an opportunity, you'd be like, oh yeah, we're working a deal there. Boom, it just happens. So like there's like a geo thing, there's like a heart rate and like social thing, and then there's all kinds of crazy stuff that we could talk about. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about right now.
I love the idea of, and this is really where I found the most value out of Spiro, which is the proactive prompt. Actually, I had this happen this week multiple times where I'm busy, I'm putting a contract together, I'm writing a proposal, and then on my phone is Spiro's assistant saying, "Hey, don't forget to follow up with this guy. He's my biggest deal in my pipeline." So I'm like, this is not annoying. This is really good. Thank you for the reminder. And it was top of mind all this week because Spiro kept reminding me, and so I really love the proactive approach of this, and I think it solves a massive problem for salespeople, again, which is how to know to follow up with the right deals at the right time. Does Spiro know? I mean, I know it reads emails and does it look at the tasks in Salesforce as well?
Sure. If you're a Salesforce user, yes, definitely.
Yeah. So if how does it know that this is an important deal that I need to follow up with at the beginning of July? Is it somehow reading the content in my tasks and my notes to know how frequently? I mean, we're getting like to the end of June, beginning of July when I talked with this opportunity, and they said, call me at the beginning of July and we'll work out the terms.
So it doesn't read your email to the level of being able to pick out that statement, but what it does do, it looks at the close date that you set, and it looks at the cadence of communications that you're having with them, and sort of the general philosophy is that as we're getting closer to the close date, it should be happening more frequently or something's wrong. And so, if we're not seeing it happening, then we're like, okay, let's make this thing happen, because, if you look at the data, what happens with deals is everybody has sort of an average duration, and let's call it 90 days for a deal. And so if your deal kind of gets past 90 days, then we start going, oh, I think that one's not going to happen. It's like these things have a momentum. They've got a life cycle to them. It's like dating another person. Things have to move or they die, and so Spiro gets a little anxious about stuff if it doesn't see it happening. So that's kind of what you're seeing in there to go. And then, the timing, the specific timing, is also based upon your own personal calendar. because we realize that you're busy doing other things, and so we don't want to be like bugging you while you're in another meeting, because that would be the first thing to cause you to get rid of Spiro. So we look at your calendar and we try to figure out the right moments to bug you about stuff.
That's brilliant. It always seems like it's notifying me, like, yeah, when I'm not on a call, but when I'm working on a proposal, like, I see it pop up on my phone. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to take care of that here in just a moment.
I mean, it's such a simple thing. Like the very first rule that we put in place was, we have access to your calendar because we need it to understand what's going on with your deals. So don't bug sales guys while they've got calendar appointments. Like,
thank you.
What? Like, why doesn't everything do that? I don't understand. So
that's what's interesting to me, and it's taken a bit of a step back here. But so I don't know if we talked about this before we started recording or after, but your philosophy major, then became a VP of sales, and now you're doing a machine learning AI company. How did you build it? Are you coding, or do you have a team that you kind of put together to get this done, or how'd you get from where you were to here?
Right. So like I said before, I was a terrible technical person. Like I could talk and people would be like, "Oh, that guy's really smart," and then I couldn't do it. So I have two co-founders on the team. One of who is pretty technical, and so Andy Levy is our CTO and head of product, and we actually have a 11-person development team in Sarajevo, Bosnia, working with us on all of the machine learning and technical stuff. And I'm going to be out in Bosnia in a couple months with those guys. But so they do all of the really, hard work in terms of making the technology, do what it's supposed to be doing. My role within that is really to provide the inspiration and the crazy thoughts, like, oh, we should have these different personalities and make it a joke, and everybody looks at me like, "Ma, what are you talking about?" But they do all of the really hard work of translating the ideas into the actual software.
Yeah. Okay. And actually, can you talk a little about the personalities? I know we talked a little bit about it at the beginning, before we went live, so we weren't recording at that time. But you were saying that you see some statistics or trends based on the personalities. Can you talk a little bit about what the personalities are, the trends that you see, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So just for people, for the 3 salespeople in America who might not be familiar with Spiro today, the way that Spiro works is when you first sign up for it, you basically choose the persona of Spiro and how it's going to interact with you. Like I said, I'm still waiting for Scarlett Johansson to get back to me so we can use her. But instead of Scarlett Johansson, we have a Jewish mother, a R-rated guy, a surfer dude. We have Fabio. We have Gossip Girl. We have a coach, and we've got boring. Just in case you're really boring. Yes, I don't know why. And so you choose one of those, and then when Spiro reminds Sean to call somebody, it doesn't say, "Sean, call John," because that would be really dull and he probably wouldn't listen to it. But it says, "Hey, pick up the phone, prick. You got to call John." And he goes, "Oh, okay, what's going on here?" Or the Jewish mother would say, "Don't call John. I'll just sit here in the corner and wait." Or whatever it says. So it's like the coach personality is kind of uplifting and a little bit more rah, and then we have one called Gossip Girl, which kind of sounds like one of the Kardashians are talking to you. I don't really understand what it's saying. And we have a comedy writer on the team, so we have over 4,000 jokes in the app. And so the idea is that salespeople, like I said, we're very focused. We get really into the zone, and we need something to kind of pop us out. And humor is just such a great way to do that, and that's why we've adopted that within the app. Plus, we're just funny guys, I guess. I don't know. So as far as I know, we're the only R-rated app in the App Store for business. That's our claim to fame right there.
And so, which persona do you find the most successful people utilizing? Any correlation there?
Yes. So the R-rated persona, the one that's kind of like your really obnoxious drunk college friend giving you sales advice, is the number one personality, and it corresponds with the sales guys who have the biggest pipelines. Choose the R-rated one. And I think it's because in sales, if you want to be successful, you need to have a thick skin and you just push forward and whatever, and you need the R-rated thing to kind of get you going. I had one VP of sales say to me, So if somebody picks surfer dude, we should basically fire them. And I said, well, I'm not saying that that's what you should do. Maybe put them on a plan first. I don't know.
Maybe if they choose the boring one, then I think there's a red flag there.
Yeah, I mean, boring, really? I mean, we've got some companies. So right now, the business model that we have is salespeople find Spiro and adopt it for their own purposes to help them. But we have one Fortune 500 company that we're negotiating with right now to equip the 3,000 person sales group that they have with all of Spiro. And they were like, well, we need to be able to shut off the R-rated for the team once it's a corporate thing. And we were like,
how did that work? How did that go?
Because I swear, we edited all of the explicit sex acts out of it. There's none of it. Yeah. I personally checked that.
Right. I think the one that I remember, and I think so at this new software company since January, I think the first deal that I closed was because Spiro reached out to me. This is the R-rated version, and said, "Hey, dork dick, reach out to this guy. What are you waiting for?" type of thing. And so I think that was the one that I tweeted, you in Spiro, and it's like that's the way to do it. Like you gotta really get people's attention.
Oh yeah, in this world of constant distraction and Twitter and Facebook and all of this kind of stuff, yeah, you got to be out there. Totally. It's always a big debate in Spiro internally. We're like, how many notifications should we be pushing? And I'm always like, sales guys, push a lot. And the rest of the team is like, no, people hate notifications. I'm like, no. Push the notifications.
They're sales guys. They don't mind. They're sending a bunch themselves. So
yeah. So in addition to doing the push notifications, we're also doing an email service. So we're going to send you an email, also reminding you of stuff as well, just in case that's a channel that you like better. And of course you can always go into the app, and it has a list of everything that we recommend that you do as well.
Mm-hmm.
Talk as well about the so you've got the mobile app. You have the emails that are going out. You also have a Chrome plugin as well. So how does all that collectively work together to help salespeople close more deals?
Sure. So we have if you haven't seen it, we have a full-blown web app now too.
Yes.
So the basic idea is that for a lot of our users, and so we have a lot of salespeople from companies like Paychex and Cisco Foods and Aramark, and these guys are relentless sales guys, but they spend like 6 hours a day in their car, driving from appointment to appointment, and so they really need the mobile experience, and that's the feedback that we get. And we designed all the fonts to be really big, Sean. I don't know if you noticed that. Mm-hmm. So we don't recommend you use it while you're driving.
Of course.
Just in case you do, you can still read it. No problem. And so the mobile version is really designed for sales guys who are out and about a lot. And then the Chrome browser extension and the web app is more like, well, when your laptop, it's a lot easier to do things. You can actually type stuff a little bit quicker on the laptop than on the phone, and so that's the way we tend to see that being used. And a lot of people are using Google Voice and other kind of VoIP technologies integrated with the web app so that they can just make calls directly from the browser.
Gotcha. And you talked a little bit about business model a second ago. You said, you're talking to a Fortune 500 right now about getting in for 300 salespeople, etc. You guys just implemented the paid version of Spiro. Before it was kind of download and you can use it for free. What is the model that you guys are going after? How are you guys planning on scaling and moving forward?
Sure. So when we launched the company, we everything was free, and that was definitely a need that we had to get a large pool of users on the app to train the engine, to really understand everything. And sort of the initial goal was to get to about 5,000 salespeople using the app, before kind of turning it into a paid product. But what happened was we grew so fast, we blew through the 5,000 users, and we couldn't get the paid thing going fast enough. So we actually hit about 7,000 users before we did that. And so the business model is, it's a software product for salespeople, and so we want salespeople to adopt it. We priced it at under $20 a month, so that most people can just get it reimbursed. And we talked to a whole bunch of CFOs, and they were like, yeah, anything under $20, the accounting department doesn't really even look at. So we were like, oh, that sounds like the right price to me. So the idea is, to create this, great effectiveness tool for salespeople that they can use and adopt. And along the way, what we've seen is at some large companies, we have 80, 150, 300 people at these big companies using the product. And we actually got a call from this Fortune 500 company, inbound call, and they were like, hello, who are you? Like, what are you doing with our sales team? We need to talk. Suddenly it's like me telling their sales guys who to call was their perspective on it, and they get involved in that dialogue. And in the web version of the product, one of the really cool features about the web version is that you can, like, the engine, the machine learning part of it creates a priority of all of your deals. And in the web version, you can go into it and be like, no, I know the data looks like, ABC is a great account for us, but those guys suck. They're never going to buy anything. Put them over to the right. So you can manually tell the engine stuff. And that they were like, when I told that to this Fortune 500 company, they were like, oh, because every week we would like our managers to set the priorities with the team together so they know who to go after. And then we should just tell Spiro that, and it'll make all the calls and the recommendations and stuff like that way. And we were like, yeah, exactly. That's what we want. So kind of how we got going with that. So we're going to have a new edition coming out probably in the fall that's going to have a lot of additional things going on with it like that, like, forecast alerts. Like, the data is kind of showing us which deals are going to happen and which deals aren't going to happen anyway. So we'd like to surface that to salespeople so that you get some alerts on it. So we're testing that right now. We're coming up with like a list of like the most important things you should be talking about with your one-on-one with your manager. Instead of kind of going through the whole pipeline and doing the thing, like what's really going to move the needle? Let's do with that. So there's a lot of new things that we're going to be coming out with in the fall.
You at one point had I think it was a summary of your closed deals inside of the mobile app.
Yeah.
That recently disappeared. Has that disappeared for good, or is that temporary?
It's temporary. So we basically built a model that said, based upon where you are, and we use this Bayesian probability analysis, which I didn't even know what it was. But what I learned was, like, ever go to the sports section? They're like, the Red Sox have a 15% chance to win the World Series this year, and there's this whole science behind that. We had the same guy who does all that stuff come up with the algorithm for predicting it. But then what happened was, so that was working great, but then it was like, some companies, their fiscal quarters don't end on the same periods as everybody else's. And so, like, we're working with this one company that their month end is on the 21st of every month. Like, that's when their month end is.
Weird.
And so everybody's got all these different, and like, so Salesforce and Oracle, like, their fiscal year begins February 1, and so the math didn't really work well for about 40% of the users. And so we were like, okay, so we're going to take that out of the app until we can figure out how to fix it. So, again, I think this is one of the things that on the web, it'll be a little bit easier so that you can actually tell Spiro what your quarter end is and stuff like that. Because the way we built Spiro is, in case you don't know Spiro, there's no setup. You basically log in and it just does stuff. Like, literally, like, there's no setup. And so that was what we want, not because salespeople have really short attention spans, because of course we do, but because that's just the way all software should work. And so, if we have to stop and say, oh, who is your manager? What's, your all this stuff, then, whatever. So we're working on that.
Is there the opportunity to, like, cross-share data? Maybe not publicly to users, but for the algorithm to learn, okay, this guy over here in this region is seeing success because of X, so this guy in the same region should see success, and then make suggestions to salespeople, based on what they're learning, kind of cross data.
Yeah. So this is going to be another feature that we're working on for the fall. I think that the way that we're going to approach it is by sales teams within companies.
Okay.
And because, just because there are other sales guys in Denver, like the guys who are selling uniform services at Aramark, that's not going to help your, situation, Sean. But the rest of your team and what they're doing and the cadence of their calls, the titles that they're calling on, the contacts there and stuff like that, that's very relevant. And so we're working on sort of a team version that's going to, the algorithm isn't just going to take your own individual data, it's going to take the teams and come up with the best model based upon that. And in terms of collaboration, some of the stuff that we're also seeing there is pretty cool because, frankly, we have a lot of salespeople who are calling on the same account within the system.
Yeah.
Not selling them competitive things, but like everybody's got Cisco as a customer, Cisco with a C, right? And so it's like, well, what can we learn about that as well, and how do we make that part of a community experience for people?
Oh wow, that would be interesting.
What's that, Henry?
So that's interesting because there's some accounts that are so large that they're in pretty much 4 or 5 different people's region.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, but those salespeople end up never talking, or in some companies, hopefully and the company begins to figure out ways to have those people communicating, but sometimes they never do, and they're just really messing each other up, or somebody's just trying to get theirs in first, so the other so that'll be probably a huge help for a lot of large companies.
Right. I mean, I think so. The view of Spiro is that we want to be like on the side of the sales rep, because that's our mission, to help salespeople make more money. So we want to, it's interesting to figure out, okay, how do we help you make sure you get that deal, not somebody else? So because we're your assistant, that's what we're up to. So I don't know, we're working on that.
Well, I mean, you got to have that mission, right? I mean, because there's different being, for revenue for the total company versus being for that one rep, who's how you end up building, right?
Kind of roll up, but Yeah,
how you end up building differs based on who you're building for. So.
Totally.
So how do you guys are you viewing like the go-to-market? Because you mentioned like people will pick up the phone and just call you like, hey, we see 100 people in our company are using you. Like, what's going on? Or are you guys kind of doing the cold calling, or are you doing more of the inbound? Because I see you're doing blogging.
Right.
What's working for you? How are you guys kind of going at the market?
So we have a sort of an inbound content strategy going on. So we're blogging 3 or 4 times a week about sales-related topics. Including great blog posts like why everybody should date a salesperson, and the most effective sales emails, and we kind of mix it up a little bit. And we generate a pretty decent amount of traffic to our website based upon all of those different things. People sharing them on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, and then people are aware of Spiro generally because of that, and some percentage of them download the app, and then what happens, we see one person download the app at Stack Overflow, and then bang, 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 like 5 other guys will come in from Stack Overflow because they're like, I can't believe this thing, and so like there's sort of a viral thing that kind of goes on that way. So that's how we acquire users, and then when somebody signs up for Spiro, they're now. And we literally call like, hey, does it work? Is it not? I mean, we're still signing up like 60 to 100 guys a day, so it's a lot of work. Got our summer intern helping us with that, but it's I mean, every day myself and my co-founder just on the phone, just calling people up, because that's and learn things and make people feel important and special, which of course they are, because they're our users. So I'm still doing that probably about an hour a day.
I've spoken with Justin before. I've gotten an email or 2 from him. So you guys are definitely doing your job.
No, we got all kinds of crazy, like automated emails to try to make sure you remember us, and we've got like web chat, which is very, very popular with our users, and all kinds of great stuff like that going on.
What are some interesting things you see, some interesting habits or insights that you have about your most successful salespeople using Spiro, besides the R-rated personality correlation?
So we did a contest, the President's Club contest with Selling Power magazine, and we gave a $5,000 prize for the salesperson who closed the most business using Spiro, and then we had a $3,000 prize for the salesperson who sold the most deals. And we're going to be announcing all of this at the Sales 2.0 conference in San Francisco in July, so I don't want to give too much of it away. But the salesperson who sold the most in between January and the end of May, I mean, it was like $5 million during that time. And I was
Crazy.
like, whoa, what is this guy doing? And it wasn't just that he had tremendous deals. He was just a machine, this guy, getting it done. You know what I mean? And so, like I hate the idea that like activity translates into results, right? Because it's not just any activity, but it's like you do need the activity to get it done. So there's a strong relationship between the two of those. So that's definitely what I see. I see the salespeople who make the extra calls and push for the extra meetings and like know when to let the deals go so they can focus on the important ones. That's really what's driving driving the best behavior in my view.
So at its simplest form, it sounds like activity. Activity is the key thing you see to success.
Well, it's really hard to close deals if you're not engaged with a prospect. I'm just going to say, I'm going to put it out there. Some people are just going to buy, but everybody else, you need to talk to them, dude. And if you're not talking to them, it's not going to happen. And that's the beauty about Spiro, because Spiro doesn't care if it's bugging you to call them. Like, it's going to say, no, you need to call that guy. So, if we can get, if you're going to make, 200 calls during the week, and we can get you to make, 3 more conversations because of that, maybe every one of them isn't going to work out to a deal, but over a month, one of them's going to, right? And that's kind of what it's about in sales. How do you get to that point where you just are working through it to make it happen? Because there's so much stuff that can stop you, from doing that.
Spiro is primarily based on opportunities, and is there any plans for widening the scope a little bit to something outside of opportunities to kind of pull maybe the outliers into opportunities?
Yeah, so actually, I think next week, so the week of June, what is next week? June 28th or something like that, we're going to be releasing lead functionality, which is really something that people have been asking a lot for. So when you get an inbound lead in Salesforce.com, if you're a Salesforce.com user, we will surface that and make it part of your follow-up recommendation path.
Yes.
This has been sort of on the roadmap for a while, and I don't want to get too technical, but in Salesforce, the lead part of Salesforce is just not as well done as the opportunity part. And so every company does it slightly differently, so it took us a while to figure out how to integrate that into the view. The other thing, Sean, I just want to mention is actually about half of our users are not using Salesforce.com as well.
Interesting.
And so for those people, we have a Zapier integration that will allow you to surface leads into Spiro as well.
So besides, I would assume Salesforce is top dog as far as CRM usage. What are other people using CRM-wise?
So let me describe this to you, because this was a big learning for me. So when we launched Spiro, it was like your personal sales assistant for Salesforce. And so we grew to about 1,000 users. And what we noticed was for every one person who signed in with Salesforce, there were 6 people who were trying to use Spiro who couldn't. And we were like, what's going on? And so we put up a little thing in the app that says, I don't have Salesforce. And it took you to a page on our website. That page became the most popular page on the Spiro website. And so we were like, okay, let's put up a thing that says, well, what CRM do you have? And you could choose. And Microsoft Excel was the #1 choice. And we were like,
what?
So we were like, okay, I've got an idea. Why don't we just build the little Spiro CRM for people who have Microsoft Excel, and it's can track your opportunities, your accounts, your contacts, your forecast, everything you can do in Salesforce and less, because Salesforce does way too much, right? And so we built our own CRM, and so Spiro now has its own CRM that salespeople can use if they don't, want to use Salesforce. And so we have organizations like the Subaru of Kingston, Ontario, completely adopted Spiro as their CRM platform. So if anybody needs a Subaru, please drive to Ontario pronto and buy it from those guys. So that accelerated the growth of Spiro like crazy, because suddenly people could use anything and be using Spiro. And we have a feature within the web app that allows you to import all of your opportunities from any sort of CRM that you're using. We've got Zapier integration with HubSpot, as well as Zoho and a bunch of other CRMs. And so it's It's kind of interesting. We're not SAP and not Siebel, but pretty much everything else we can tie into.
I love that idea, and I'm so glad that the data shows true that the Salesforce is not the end all be all. I think it's an interesting solution, but I think it's very clunky and slow. I didn't realize. I think I did realize that you could use Spiro without a CRM, but I did not realize that it is a baby miniature CRM in that you can suck up the contacts and leads into the system. That's really, really cool.
So check it out. When you get when you're using the non-Salesforce version of Spiro, and you get an email from somebody that we think is a prospect, Spiro says, "Oh, should this be an opportunity?" And it just creates it for you. It adds the contacts automatically. It knows the domain of the email person who's sending it to you. It finds all the other contacts you have with that domain and associates them with you. You know, because it's just like, well, why can't your CRM be totally self-writing? And that's what our CRM does. We can't do that in Salesforce because you guys have validation rules that require you to fill in stupid fields when you create an opportunity that we don't know about. So, but I'll tell you the thing about Salesforce that I always say, Salesforce, as far as I'm concerned, they're like a bad girlfriend. All they do is take. They just take from you. They don't do anything
I
back.
love it.
So we're trying to give back. You know, that's what we're doing. I don't know, that analogy kind of breaks down at some point here. Like we're the girl on the side. Like I don't know what's going on with that analogy, but sorry, I hope I haven't offended all of our female users here. They're like a bad boyfriend, you know.
We're helping bad relationships everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ruining bad relationships.
I had this. This is the perfect scenario. I had this girl that I was interested in. My wife can hear me here, so she'll probably laugh at this. But I had this girl that I was talking with at one point. Really liked her a lot. And out of the blue, met my wife at a wedding, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to marry this. I want to marry this gal. And I think that's it. Like the girl that I was originally talking to was Salesforce. Great, you know. But the girl on the side was the one that I ended up, marrying.
Sean, you didn't know any better. You didn't know your wife was out there. You were like, I guess I have to date Salesforce because what am I going to do?
Exactly. Exactly. There's too many correlations there. It's crazy.
So is the future of Spiro potentially like a CRM in a way? Because right now, I mean, well, I guess you guys kind of have a CRM now, which I didn't know about either, but is that a part of the direction moving forward?
I think so. I think that's actually going to become a more important part of the business as time goes on. I mean, having our own platform where we can do things like, oh, why don't we just add a button that automatically generates a forecast? Like, I don't know why that's so complicated in Salesforce. It's the most complicated thing in the whole world.
Yeah.
Blows my mind.
Hit the button and it generates a forecast. We put months in columns and show what deals go into what month. Like, what the hell is so hard about that?
Yeah.
No, it's super simple.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of great stuff that we're going to be building into the CRM part of Spiro.
I love that. And I want that. I've often thought about that. Like if you were secretly planning to take on Salesforce, not saying you are, but if you were secretly planning to take on Salesforce, that's going to be the way that you do it. And I love the idea of taking the Apple approach versus the Android approach, right? Yep. Android licenses their stuff out. You have less control. You're at the mercy of other companies, whereas Apple controls the whole entire environment and gives you the ability to be more nimble, add things that people are asking for instead of relying on other people. So, as a paying user of Spiro, I'm taking this opportunity now, Adam, to put in my request to continue the direction of creating a self-sustaining CRM.
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to do that because it just makes it so much richer for the users to have it that way. And Salesforce, I mean, they're a great company. I have a lot of respect for Salesforce, but they're really focused on like the Fortune 50. They don't want to do $1 million deals. They want to do $10 million deals. And they're not going to do that at Subaru of Kingston. So like that, there's a lot of room left over for guys like us.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
So
It's exciting.
we've got about 7 minutes left here. There's a couple of questions that I definitely want to cover, but you've got an audience of salespeople here who are watching this live on Google Hangouts on air. They're also listening to this on the podcast as well. What's your message to salespeople? If you had one message that you would say to salespeople, either to help them succeed or maybe some advice to them, what would you tell them?
Wow. So we're actually writing an ebook, which is like 157 of our most important things to tell salespeople. So I don't know how to like boil it down to one thing, but I would say stick with it. Like let's go. Like I know sales is hard. Like I've done tons of sales, and the best salespeople are rejected all of the time. And I would just recommend to my brothers and sisters in the sales world that what they're doing is a noble profession. And I would definitely say just keep at it, man. We're gonna get this thing. That's for me. That's what I say in the morning.
Any advice? I love that, and it's so key. Like I said in the beginning of the show, make no assumptions. Call and follow up until you get a yes or no.
Right.
No response is not a good reason to give up, and it's a really bad thing for your business. In fact, it's just I ignored the no response last week and actually got the person on the phone when I thought they were going to say no. They actually said yes,
right.
and they added some criteria. So I'm working on that one. But
I mean,
I love that idea.
Indifference is the worst thing. Like I want people to love me or hate me. Like indifference, I don't want to have anything to do with that. Like I want people to say no. If you want to say no, you say no to me.
Awesome. So talk a little bit about talk to the audience about if they like what they're hearing. They like this product. How can they investigate Spiro a little bit more? And then if they want to reach out to you and give their feedback or experience as a salesperson to you, how can they reach out to you? Both Spiro and you. How can they reach out?
Sure. So I would say that if you're a salesperson and you're managing more than 8 or 9 opportunities at a time, and you need help always knowing who to call next and follow up with and not miss anything, that's exactly what Spiro is going to help you with. And if you're looking for a CRM that's very lightweight, does all the work for you with a sales assistant built in, that's also a good reason for you to check out Spiro. And you can find us at spirohq.com. You can Google Spiro. I think we're the first thing anyway that comes up. You can reach me. I'm Adam at spirohq.com. You can hit me up on Twitter, although Twitter is such a crazy, noisy place. Just email me. My phone number is 617-818-0644. Once again, that's 617-818-0644, and that goes right to my mobile phone. Call me, and if you're trying to sell me something, I really need you to be prepared. I'm going to give you some feedback on that, too. So, yeah, reach out to me. I'm all game. I love talking to people. If you're in Boston, if you're near South Station, come on by. We're at 745 Atlantic. So we love meeting and talking with people. So please, this is what we do, man.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Hey, I'm
really
down the
cool.
street, so I'm going to have to come see you, Adam.
Yeah, let's hook it up. Totally.
Without a doubt. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Are you guys at any upcoming conferences or events here in the future?
So we're going to be at the Sales 2.0 conference in San Francisco, July 18th or something like that. So no, the conference thing, it's really interesting. Like the cost per user acquired doesn't work at all for my business model. So we're trying to stay away from stuff like that. But if there's stuff in Boston or that we happen to be connected to, like with Selling Power Magazine, we're definitely going to do that.
Cool. But
will you be out an inspirational speaker? I'm always happy to come out to something if you're interested. I could keep it clean too, just to let you know.
But you can do the coach version instead of the R-rated.
Exactly, and yes, exactly. It's more money, but I can do it.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Adam, well, it's been such a pleasure to get to know you a little bit more. And I mean, I can't remember if I said this before or after we started recording, but this is an incredible software. And by the way, I had someone who asked me this on Snapchat. Did Spiro pay you guys to get on the show? I'm like, no, absolutely not. We asked Adam on because we love Spiro, we use it, and personally, I've made thousands of dollars now utilizing Spiro, and it's helped me keep opportunities top of mind. So, Adam, thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
No, of course, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Henry. So
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
Absolutely. Cool. So before we conclude here, I'll just touch on a couple of things. We've got a few new things to update our tribe on. So recordings of this will be up on YouTube almost as soon as we hit the stop recording button. We're on iTunes Podcast. We're on Stitcher, which I think I mentioned earlier this week when we had Jeb Blunt on. But now we're also on Google Play as well. So we're where you are at, whether you want to watch this live or at your own convenience, in the car, getting dressed, on the toilet, wherever. And if we're not in a place that you're at, let us know. Give us that feedback, and I will try and work to be in that environment. So our next episode, episode 3, we won't be doing one next Sunday because that's July 4th weekend, but the following Sunday after that, July 10th at 9 p.m. Eastern, Henry and I are going to be jamming about a topic yet to be determined. We'll have to figure that out, Henry. And thank you, everyone, for being on the show. Thank you especially to Adam. And we will see you on the next Real Sales Talk, July 10th, 2016. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good one, guys.